pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public 1, 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting, through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all who have requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Bradley.
Is excused, yes.
Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman Durango.
Here.
Councilman Deline.
Here.
Councilman Giacometto.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyle.
Okay, thank you. We have no presentations, just a little update on our storm update. As we all know, we had a pretty serious 2 storms come through our town here. I thought our town handled it very well. I mean, these were hard-pressed storms. They took a lot of time and energy by all our manpower, our DEP, our DPW, our OEM, our fire, first aid, police. They all did an outstanding job. All the men were called in on the storm dates, and that's the good part of it. Now, roads weren't, shade tree too, I'm sorry. The roads were done. What I'm going to ask our residents, and I know computers and Facebook and all these things haven't helped us, well, we have to give our emergency staff time to do what they have to do. If it starts snowing at 6 o'clock, and at 11:30, I got a phone call at the police department, when are they plowing the roads? I think they know the roads need to be plowed, okay? They're out there doing what they have to do. Now, if there's an emergency, of course, you're calling 911 for an emergency. But we should not be calling 911 because you're worried about a plow coming down the street, or, a limb. You should call if a limb fell and did some damage. But we have to assess the damage as it happens throughout the storm. So I think our team of people did an outstanding job. I would ask the residents to be patient when a storm happens. That's all I'm going to ask. If we have to cancel a garbage pickup, for example, because we're going to plow, that's something the residents need to understand. Okay, it's one garbage pickup that you're giving up. We have to put our manpower out there. They're spending long days and nights away from their family and being out on the road. So let's give them a break when those things happen. About Jersey Central Power, I was in constant contact with the electric company, with a manager. We did lose power. At one point, we had about 80% of the town had no power. They did get most of the town back up, but I understand there were some pockets throughout the town that did not have power. They did respond pretty quickly, in my opinion, considering all the damage that was done from the storm, to get our streets back up. There were some streets that went down from the first storm, and then unfortunately went down in the second storm at the same time. Those were separate things, but they were out for a long time. But in general, I will say that Jersey Central did respond pretty well here in Pompton Lakes. I can't say that for the rest of the state, but in Pompton Lakes, they did a good job. Okay, I'm going to open the meeting for public comments. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Councilman Bay, Councilman Giacometto, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address?
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. I'm speaking for the shade tree and the storm that we just went through. I have to reiterate how important it was what you just said as far as patience for the people in the town. I want to compliment quite a few people in the town. DPW, for sure, and the work that they had to do to remove the snow and then clean up debris and trees. I was out there today. They cleaned up the fallen oak at Murren Park, across from Hirschfield. It blocked the whole pathway that the kids used to go back and forth. At the new Veterans Park at Jefferson, big pine split in half. They cleaned that up. Now, that tree that they cleaned up at Murren Park, the oak had to be 30 inches. That was a big oak. I was called by our environmentalist, Ed Merrill, that he had spoke to Kevin Boyle about getting Downs there and removing that ASAP. Downs Tree Service, our tree service, is inundated.
Sure.
He kind of just looked at me, or they just, when I talked to him, he says, "You won't see me for weeks."
Right.
Because there's so much. So I have to compliment the DPW on taking care of that tree. That was a pretty big item. trees down at Lakeside Park also. I want to compliment Al Evangelista and all the work that he did with OEM. He was out there taking care of tree problems and all kinds of issues in town. I want to compliment Pete Ortieri also. He's retired Verizon, and I gave him poll numbers on Perrin Avenue that Al was at, and it always helps to have somebody that was tied in with Verizon to work with JCP&L and knows those contacts to help get us relief and solve our problems a little quicker. Also, you have to realize that JCP&L was just here for at least a month, if not more, and they were doing all their pruning before this storm came. So that really saved us also. It's unfortunate that we lost another tree on Pompton Ave that knocked out the power up on Summit.
Twice.
Some people were out for a little while, and but that tree I had tagged for removal, and from what I understand, talking to a policeman, that the mayor was just there talking to the policeman, and not 5 minutes after you left, the tree fell. So thank the Lord that you were safely out of the way.
I'm thinking that too.
Excuse me?
I'm thanking the Lord on that too.
Yeah, there you go. So here we are a week later. Today, they're still removing debris and still taking care of tree problems. And Shade Tree has removed going on 800 trees. So really, the town did fairly well. So I want to compliment all those people. And that's it. Thank you.
I agree 100%. I mean, again, you know, the Shade Tree, a volunteer organization, but they put a lot of time and energy in marking trees that have to come down. You know, I drove with Al and the chief and the fire department a couple of different times throughout the storm. Again, most of those people, you know, are putting a lot of extra time, and then they have to make the town work. But it was a pretty bad storm, you know. People who've been here a long time have said this is one of the worst storms they've seen in a while. But again, I'll go back to the residents. I was driving around with the police chief at 9 o'clock on the day it snowed, and there were people trying to drive on the streets. They're trying to get around and getting stuck in the streets, and then stopping the police car saying, could you get a plow over here? Well, a plow's not getting down the street because you're blocking the street. So, you know, we have to be patient and let them do their job. That's what they're paid to do. They know how to do it. They're the people that should be out on the roads at night when it's like that, not us. We should be inside, hoping they're doing a good job cleaning everything outside, and then get out there the next day. So I think that's the biggest message we can take out of the storm, is let them do their job, and they'll do a fine job as long as we let them do it. Anybody else?
I was actually just finishing my thoughts. Ann Tassinelli, 5 Lambert Street. I came to speak tonight on behalf of the Shade Tree Commission, but these words are my own, from my heart, as a request to you. I'm sure you would all agree that the Pompton Lake Shade Tree Commission works very hard. Of course, all the paid employees in town work hard, and the non-paid volunteers of other commissions, boards, or committees work hard as well. But this is a request of a specific concern I have. The Shade Tree Commission is constantly a moving wheel. We feel as though we are constantly on call. And sometimes Randy, for the most part, is. Let's see where I lost my thought here. We feel that we're on call a lot. Randy's always getting called. He's always getting out there. He jumps to a request by phone from either Liz or Kevin to get out there if someone called the office and gave a complaint. He often goes out there with his accomplice, Pete Ortieri. And he travels through town on almost a daily basis, using his own car and being the steward of the shade trees in town. He looks at all the issues he gets brought to his attention, and the ones that he finds on his own, in order to make sure that we're keeping safety within the town from the trees. And as you know, and I think I heard him mention as I came in, however, I'm already aware of, that we did do a pretty good job. However, the storm was a bad one. I'm pointing these items out to you because I would like to request, I don't know if it's a motion or how you will treat it, but a motion to offer Randy a stipend for the gas that he uses almost every day driving through town, and something together with the gas as for wear and tear on his vehicle. I think it is the least that should be considered. I probably should have suggested this a long time ago because he's been doing this for many years, but with everything considered, and he did not ask for this, so I'm sure he's kind of surprised I'm up here saying this. But I see what he gets out there and does, and I see how he does most of the driving. Even if he picks one of us up or Pete, they go out in his truck because he'll sometimes go into areas, the wooded or whatever, where you can't drive a car in. So with that said, PLSTC's work is a constant. It's not just meeting one time a month to discuss our plans. Weather events, lifting sidewalks and curbs, plantings, keeping our streets tree-lined yet safe, simple concerns from the residents. We are all more than happy and certainly committed to doing what we do. I just would like to see if there's something we could do to pay him back some of that money he puts out of his pocket and the wear and tear on his vehicle, because we're volunteers, we're not paid employees, but he's out there all the time, and you guys all know it.
Well, what I'm going to say to that is, first of all, I agree with you 100% in that Randy is out there all the time in his own vehicle. I've been there many times where he's been there with his car, and he's been doing what he has to do, and he probably goes beyond what he even needs to do.
Yeah. Big time.
In that. That being said, the problem is there's a lot of other communities and committees that are doing the exact same thing. The Riverwalk, brings trucks in it, their personal trucks, to move garbage around when they do a river walk and a river cleanup.
That's one time, twice a
Well, they
year.
do it quite often if they're checking out trails or if the trail maintenance, the Geese police are out there during the month, they're driving their own vehicles to do that. We can't really say, I'm not speaking for the council. If the council has a different opinion, of course, they can say something. I'm not saying that we can't do it. It's something we can talk about, but it's a committee, and once you open that door to one person on the committee, you have to open the door for everybody on that committee. You can't just pick one person and say, this is how it's going to be.
Well, it was
But I agree with you.
an
He is out.
opportunity to bring it to you. I don't know if it's something that is I didn't even expect a definite answer either way.
We'll talk about it.
I would kind of like to have you pass it through
We will do that.
council, and understandably, others may then come to the plate, but you know what? Maybe it could be considered as, well, when and if that happens, we'll deal with that as
I will pass it around, and I kind of agree with what you're telling me. I understand what you're saying.
it's like we all drive around a little bit, but it's not the same as he's out there almost 7
He
days
is.
a week.
But I also think it's what he puts into the job, which he wants to do a good job at.
Of course.
And so he puts a lot of time on his own in there doing
I know.
that.
Randy, I hope you don't mind that I came out in your defense.
And I'm defending him too, because I think he does do all those things. But let me discuss that a little bit. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Please step up.
Gregory Wayne Cockapher, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, and I'm also from 26 Albert Street. I'm also a graduate of Pompton Lakes High School, class of 1975. What happened today, I'm proud of you high schoolers. You're taking initiative. You're taking responsibility for something that, see, I prayed for you guys all the time, because I went to the school. I prayed for my classmates that went to school too. That's what we did for each other back then. Our fears were nuclear war and Russia and everything else. The fears are different today. I'm proud of you. And I'm praying for you. And may there be peace someday where we can all enjoy our talents and we can live as human beings to the highest standard.
Thank you. We had our CTO day today, and I thank the kids for coming, involved in that, but I did tell the gentleman I was speaking to, who's going to be the mayor at the next session, they are the next people that make the decisions here, and the people that have to voice their opinion and vote and get involved and do what they have to do, and it seems like that's a group of kids that are looking to do that now. But, at the end of the day, it's about educating our youth that this is their job that they have to do if they want to make the place a better place. So this is how they're going to do it, so I agree with you. Anyone else from the public? Mr.
Can I
Buck?
ask you that, a budget question that's on the agenda?
We're going to actually open that at the time. You can ask at that point if you want.
There's no public hearing.
Oh, there's no, you can ask a general question, whatever you want to ask, sure.
On page 3
That's
of
your
the
name and
agenda,
address.
Helene Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. On page 3 of the agenda, under the summary of appropriations, it looks like many of these things are fixed costs. Is that correct? The operating expenses, those are fixed costs. That's not something that
Well,
we'll
they're
be
not.
voting on, or? No.
Well, they are. Is that what you're asking? Yes. We don't change them in any way.
Right.
Right.
So what is discretionary of these items? I guess that's my real question.
Well, let me answer the question. The discretionary on the items is salaries and wages that are not contractually obligated and other expenses. There's a fixed cost or there's deferred charges and other appropriations, capital improvements, debt service, and things of that nature. But there is some fixed costs in the operating expenses such as pension, health insurance, and that nature. But so that number includes things that are fixed, aren't fixed, depending on, what you're looking at. So you can't look at other expenses and say, it's all fixed. Some of it is, because some could be pension related, some could be just, department related. You want to give another $1,000 by this or that. So that's kind of, it's a little mixed bag.
Mm-hmm. And when will that be happening?
What's that?
The fine tuning of the budget?
This is done. This budget is introduced tonight at $13,958,000.
Oh, so I missed that discussion.
Well-
There was no discussion. This is an introduction.
Okay.
And the public hearing on the budget is in a month.
So the public hearing would be the place if people
Yeah.
had questions on specific line items.
So how the process works is, a committee gets together within our budget, members here. They play with the budget a little bit, see where we have to be with the help of our administrator. And then, we bring it to the whole council, present it to us. We play with the numbers again, look at them, see what we're doing. And then we do our first introduction, which we're going to do tonight, which is no discussion on, it's just an introduction. Then the second introduction, which will be the next council meeting, is an opportunity to discuss just the budget at that point. And if you had any concerns or questions, you could ask at that point. You could ask them here at this open session too, but you'd probably have a better shot with all the paperwork in front of us then. But, we could answer questions here.
No, that clarifies the process. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? So moved. Councilman Bennett, Councilman Devine. All in favor? Aye. Against? Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes. Special budget meeting, which we were just addressing, special budget meeting minute of February 28th, regular meeting minutes of February 28th, and closed meeting minutes of February 28th. Chris, you're excused from those. Can I have a motion? So moved. Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Bills and claims. Motion to approve the following bill list as stated below. Can I have a motion? Councilman, who's that, Murphy? Bay? And Councilman Bennett, or Dewan? Bennett, okay. I gotta say who you are. Consent agenda whenever you're ready.
Does anyone have any resolutions for separate action? No?
Nope.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, and whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to move resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 1880 through Resolution 1884.
Okay. Introduction of ordinances. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Against?
Oh, first you have to make a motion, that's right.
Just make a motion?
I make a motion.
Councilman Giaconetti. Councilman Devine. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay.
Okay, now we're going to go to the introduction of the 2018 municipal budget.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-09, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Okay, motion to approve ordinance number 1809 for introduction. So moved. Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Durango.
Yes.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
And now the budget resolution.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Be it resolved, the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2018. Be it further resolved that said budget be published in the Suburban Trends issue of March 18th. The governing body of the Pompton Lakes does hereby approve the following as the budget for the year 2018.
Motion to approve, motion to introduce the 2018 municipal budget of the Borough of Pompton Lakes. So moved, Mayor. Councilman Borrego. Councilman Bay. Roll call, please.
Do we have just one that can give a brief synopsis, maybe, or anything before? discussion?
Not at the next meeting, we'll do that.
We do it with the order over here, the public.
Okay, all right, good.
And Chuck will be at the next one, right? Or no?
Chuck is your one.
Yeah, well, so just for the public, our accountant will also be here.
Yeah,
at the
that's
next
where we
meeting.
can
Questions.
everybody good.
Okay. Okay, roll call, I think we're on.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Borrego.
Yes.
Councilman Deline.
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes. Okay. Well, we
This
have
will
no-
be read, the second reading is on April 11th, 2018, at 7:30.
Okay, thank you. Okay, under my report, I was just going to be brief. We'll start with the, I'm still getting calls from residents upset about the article that was in the Record. They kind of feel that we were thrown under the bus for someone to sell a newspaper and to sell a book. And I've stayed firm with the fact that I don't like the way it was handled. And I know another article came out after the fact about saying he did speak to me to get information. He did the same, the reporter did the same thing he's done to other people, in that we were meeting about something else, he asked a couple questions about something, and then took that as we're talking about the situation that he brought up. He never called me and said we're doing an interview about a paper or a story or anything like that. He took some quotes of people that he listed in the paper that were probably over 5 years old, the quotes. So that's the kind of thing I was unhappy with. I know I have stopped talking myself personally to the Record right now. We'll see how that goes. But I understand people do read it and they want to get their information from it, but I don't like how he portrays our town, and I'm going to stick to that right now. So that's where I am with that. We've had a couple meetings about our holiday stroll. We'd like to see a couple changes for next year, so the bid has been involved with some new meetings. If anybody would like to be involved with how the holiday stroll runs, or would like to help, or has some ideas, or something to do with lighting and things like that, please reach out to myself or to the office here, and we'll get you involved with the meeting. It's a short-term thing, but there's a lot of work put into it right when the stroll happens, and we'd like to make it better as we move forward, so there was a lot of meetings with that. I performed 3 weddings this last 2 weeks, which seems like a lot for the middle of winter, but it was. We've had some budget meetings, so we'll be introducing our budget, like we said, at the next meeting. A lot of time and energy gets put into it by our administrator and by our accountant and by our office staff. It's not something we take lightly here when we do our budget. We understand all of us here are taxpayers, we're all paying taxes. It all means something to us, every dollar that we're looking to spend. So we try to really go over it with a fine-tooth comb, with the help of our accountant, and make things work, at the same time not cut our services. That's the key to the whole thing here. We have good services in this town, and we do well with the people we have. Of course, we're always going to have to be buying garbage trucks or fire trucks or police cars, and those are costs. This is another reason why redevelopment is so important. If redevelopment was to happen, and we were to get the pilot money, which is that bunch of money we were talking about, it would go into our general fund and help offset some of those costs. So if we can offset a cost on a fire truck of $250,000, that's less the taxpayers have to pay. I know the governor just introduced his new budget this last couple days, and I spoke to his office. We had a private conversation about the budget a couple days before, and he did say one of his 4 top priorities is property taxes in New Jersey. We all know the property taxes, not just in Pompton Lakes, in every town in New Jersey, are just too high. And it's going to force people to leave the communities they love to stay in, especially the seniors. I hear from seniors all the time in Pompton Lakes, I can't afford to stay here. I can't even afford to stay in the state of New Jersey. So, that's something as a state and as a county and as a town, we all need to be on the same page with. It doesn't matter which party you're in, it doesn't matter which side you're dealing with, our taxes are too high, and we have to make it work, or we're gonna lose a lot of what's going on in our communities. So, you know, the fact that the governor reached out to a bunch of mayors and people beforehand to discuss the budget, I give him a credit for that. He did have an open mic tonight in Paramus, that people were going to discuss his budget that was presented yesterday. So hopefully, with everybody talking and working, we can make something happen with the taxes. For us here in town, the only way we're going to help you right now with taxes is through redevelopment. We don't have a industrial park per se that we can say, hey, let's do some stuff in there. So we think we do a good job with the budget here. I can speak for everybody up here. I think we do a good job in keeping it safe and not losing any services. And that's my report. Councilman Bennett, you're next.
I guess I'm up. As I said in many other meetings, that this town runs on volunteers. Before the storm, we had shade tree going out there, making sure that our trees are in good shape, and the ones that aren't, taken down and pruned so that we wouldn't lose power. There's a lot of these things that happen behind the scenes that a lot of folks don't realize. Shade tree, flood board. Since Irene, you know, the rivers are moving. We got to go and revisit that now. Trees that are down in the streets, there are just as many, I'm sure, down in the rivers. I haven't been back there yet, but that's definitely something that would need to be addressed this spring. I'd like to thank all the folks that kept this town going before, during, and after the storm. Like I said, Shade Tree, DPW, those guys are out there 24 hours. The County Roads Department, our OEM, Police Department, CERT, Fire Department, JCP&L for keeping our lights on. I know we lost power. We all lost power at one point. I think it seemed like one end of town, then all of a sudden everybody was posting that they lost power, but shortly thereafter, I think it was like less than half an hour, most of us were back on. The one thing I want to definitely talk about is the drug take-back that Carly Boniello and I, as well as Aaron Brady, put together this past Sunday. We had 94 medications folks turned in, used expired, or rather unused expired, including, I think, 3 narcotics were disposed of properly. It's important to know that if you have any unused medications, probably one of the worst things to do is flush them down the toilet. It seems to be the most logical thing, and you think it's gone for good, but actually eventually somehow winds up back in our water system, and especially if you have a septic system and whatnot. So the best thing to do is utilize the drop boxes. Most police departments have them. Ours has been there for at least almost a year, if not longer, and a lot of folks didn't even know that it was there. So drop boxes, the next best thing would be to mix it with like debris from like your vacuum cleaner so that it becomes unusable when you throw it out. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, just to follow up on what you said, there's one group I'd also like to thank. Tilcon did come out and help us plow the downtown, the business district on Wanacue Avenue. The snow was piled up so high there at one point, we could only get one car down the street. So a big thank you to Tilcon for coming out with their equipment and helping us out. Also, while we're talking about all this and the storms and the flooding and everything else, we have our emergency awareness seminar next Wednesday here at 7 o'clock. It's a great place to get information about what to do in emergencies, especially with the flooding season right around the corner. You know, you should be prepared. They'll talk more about that, but it goes through a good checklist of things you should have in your home right now before anything serious happens. And you know, my own family is one to say, you know, I said there's a chance we might be losing lights, and my kids were like the world was ending because we were losing the lights. You need to be prepared for that. You need to be ready to go at some point, and that's what they'll talk about in this seminar. So it's worthwhile if you can make it at 7 o'clock here. Okay, Councilman Begg.
Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad report for the month of February 2019 from Chief Sean Felipe. There were 88 calls for the month in February, 54 in Pompton Lakes, 17 in Riverdale. There were 15 motor vehicle accidents that they responded to. There were 2 duty calls in Wanacue. There were 59 medical emergency calls, 10 trauma calls, 5 CPRs, and 2 fire calls. I received the Pompton Lakes Fire Department's report for the month of February 2018 from Fire Inspector Al Bruno. The Fire Department responded to 18 calls for the month. And I also have to say kudos to the DPW. I was out with Al Evangelist for a couple of hours the night of the snowstorm, and considering the weight of the storm and the volume of the snow, they really did a very good job with it, as do all our other volunteers here that we speak about every month. Again, I'm going to mention the OEM schedule. As the mayor said, we're going to have the OEM meeting, and Al Evangelista runs that meeting. It's a very informative meeting, and the problem we often have with those meetings are we don't get a turnout unless we have an emergency that's just prior to it. So maybe we'll have a good turnout this time, and I certainly hope so. I attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on March 6, 2018. Dr. Pompton and his staff of the Arts Department made a curriculum report titled Innovations in the Arts. The Arts Department includes programs in art, music, culinary arts, and form, function, and design. Over the last 5 years, there has been an integration of computers into the art program, and there has been a significant increase in student interest in the art program. One of the main goals of the program is to upgrade and increase the amount of technology. This includes iMac computers to allow students to work with industry standard tools. iMacs are the standard in a lot of the entertainment and business areas. The emphasis was enforced by 2 former students who spoke, one from college student and one working in the entertainment field in New York City. On Wednesday, March 14th, the students at the high school today, they were having a program in support of Parkland, and everything went well. We had a little conversation with my CTO partners, and everything seemed to go well in supporting those people. I attended the Pompton Lakes Chamber of Commerce meeting on March 13th. The Chamber received a thank you note from St. Mary's Church Food Pantry for the donation they made. The Chamber agreed to make a $100 donation to the Police Unity Tour, and finally the Future Business Leaders of America, the FBLA Club at the high school, made a report to the Chamber on the various programs they are participating in.
So I attended that board meeting too, and I was impressed with these new arts programs they offer at the school. I mean, it's not the shop class that I remember going to school. I mean, they do a lot more going on there than I would ever imagine.
Not all wood shop.
It's not all wood shop anymore. I mean, they have a lot of amazing programs going on there with from food to innovation in music to the music program itself. So it was a pretty eye-opening thing to see what's going on in the high schools. That was amazing. Another group that I forgot to thank that did come out and help us for plowing also was our MUA. They did supply us manpower and trucks to go out, so I have to thank them also. You know, again, I go back to the fact this was a big storm, and, you know, our manpower was at its limit, so we did have to reach out, and thankfully MUA did help us, and Tilcon did help us to move forward with that. Councilman Blanco.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to start by making a motion request of my fellow council members for the Benevolent Protective Order of Elks, number 1895, Elks Carnival. Final approval is needed by the Borough Council. The dates listed for the carnival are August 29th, 2018 to September 2nd, 2018. Borough Chapter 5-17.5H states carnivals shall only be conducted during the months of June, July, and August. Police Department to be contacted for traffic meeting regarding traffic flow prior to the start of the carnival. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
So just so everybody's on the same page, our ordinance reads you can only have carnivals in June, July, and August. This carnival wants to be tied in with Pompton Day, which obviously starts on September 1st. So we have to extend it a day or two. To the 2nd, they'd like to have it, so that's what the councilman's asking for, is just to extend our ordinance to the 2nd for this group. So can I have a motion? I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll continue. I have no reports for MUA, Library Board, or Recreation for this meeting. I would like to make a request of DPW and everyone involved that we do everything that we can to kind of rectify Veterans Memorial Park. We have some very large branches that have gone down at Veterans Memorial Park and knocked over our sign. That's a park that we use very dearly for Memorial Day, the parade that we have with VFW, and I'm sure that we're going to do it again this year. So we need to do everything we can to make sure that that park is ready for Memorial Day. I'd like to thank DPW, police and fire, Al Evangelista. That storm was big. You know, we had a relatively easy time here in Pompton Lakes, especially when we hear stories like the one out of our neighbor Franklin Lakes, where a young man was incinerated in his car, running over a downed power line. You know, we always hear with snowstorms, you know, be careful, it's so dangerous out there. I was born and raised in New Jersey, been in snowstorms all my life, and never thought they were dangerous until you realize when enough snow falls and the power lines start coming down, people get killed real easy. And we did a great job here in Pompton Lakes, and I'm very thankful to all of you for that, and that's my report.
Thank you. You brought up something. I did attend the library meeting, and the Friends of the Library are launching a One Book, One Town event April 1st, which they're trying to get the whole town and the participants from kindergarten all the way up to adults to read the 2 or 3 books that they're going to list, one of them being Thunder Dog, and they're asking the council to step up and maybe at a council meeting in the next week or 2, or take some pictures of us reading the book that they can post around. So I told them, of course we would. And they would like unusual pictures, so I said, I'll find some unusual pictures for that. We have some unusual people. But they're also asking the public to take a look at that, so if you'd like to show some interest in that, please go to our library page, and there's more information on that. Also, I'd like to remind everybody, we have our CTO, which is Change of Officers Day. Is that what it is, Liz? Exactly. So what that means is, once a year, through the high school, they come over and take over the town, and they take our positions here and all the other positions in town, and come up with their own agenda of what they'd like to do. So today was the time that they met with us. Our counterparts would meet with us, discuss what we do. In another, is it a month, Liz, they'll be back?
No, the 26th.
The 26th, they'll be back with their own agenda and their own plans and visions, and I will tell you that we have in the past listened to some of the ideas that they have come up with and tried to implement them as our own town. So again, this is another reason why when the kids are saying something, they see it from a different perspective from what we're saying it. So this is another reason why we like to do it, because we get ideas of things that we might not have seen. So we thank you guys for coming. Councilman Devine, are you next?
I am next.
Then you're in, go.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I want to begin by, pretty much reiterating what everybody's been saying. Shade Tree works hard throughout the entire year to, make sure that we don't have the kind of situations, fortunately, we experienced with many other trees throughout the storm. We've obviously dealt with many other storms with minimal effect because of Shade Tree's work. OEM, has been was out on the roads and in communication with everybody, monitoring the situation. I thought DPW did a phenomenal job responding to the storm the day of, particularly the second storm, and really going through the recovery process. I know it wasn't easy because when the snow started falling late in that afternoon, I mean, it was really coming down. One of the DPW plow trucks actually got stuck in my cul-de-sac, and that was a pretty good indication about how serious that storm really was. They had the not the Bobcat, but the
Backhoe.
the backhoe come and use the front end loader to turn at 180 so they can get back down the hill. I mean, it was not an easy situation. Al, I think, sent out the call about that time about the falling branches. About the same time, I was actually, I wasn't going to bring it up, but, I think some of us have to look at our snow tires for the winter time, especially if they're going to be on the road. But, he sent out that alert about, the trees coming down and, don't worry about shoveling, for your safety. And that was about the time I was shoveling, and I was thinking, that's a pretty good idea. I think I'm going inside now. So it was not an easy storm. I actually do think that, despite some concerns of other things regarding JCP&L, I think they did a pretty good job, getting power back, again, particularly after the second storm, as fast as they did for a lot of residents. I'll share my other thoughts about that later on. And again, it was not an easy storm. I grew up in Syracuse where, 1.5 feet of snow at least was a proper snowstorm, and since I've moved to New Jersey, I don't think I've ever experienced a storm like this. So I know it wasn't easy for this particular area, and again, it's another indication of how on top of things our town can be in responding to emergencies, and that's a credit for everyone that spends the time throughout the year preparing for it and being ready to respond.
And this coming from a councilman who didn't have power for how many days?
Well, the first time it was 2 days, and the second time was basically 3 days. It was a cold couple of
He was
nights.
one of the residents that got affected by not having power for 5-6
Yeah,
days.
so, and it helps that we've had a council meeting, a few days after all of that was going on, because I think my blood pressure was a little bit higher then. In any case, I attended the meeting of the VFW on March 1st. They are actually going through a pretty interesting adjustment in terms of leadership. I think it started really last year, and it's really taken full effect this year. We have a lot more veterans that are, were in Iraq and Afghanistan, taking leadership positions, and I think that's for the great benefit of that group, that, the next generation of soldiers are starting to take on that leadership role, as veterans tend to do. They've discussed a number of things, Pompton Day, the Memorial Day, those kind of things. They're going to be, I think, starting to take a more public face going forward. They're talking about a lot more events that they want to get involved in, things like that. So, be interesting to see them out there.
We would welcome them, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Actually, this past Monday, a lot of the meetings got canceled last week for obvious reasons. March 12th, which was Monday, I met with Aaron Blake, we're working together to get the Sustainable Jersey status. Liz got a flood of emails not long after, that night, about some of the information we need. Again, it's the work that we've done throughout the year, and especially these past couple of months, as we're trying to wrap things up for the certification, sort of has just reinforced the fact that I think a lot of the things that we needed to get certification are really actions that we already do, which is a good thing. I mean, it's not just, okay, we want to do these things for the sake of the status. We've already been doing these things. I know, talked to Shade Tree that night right after about a couple of things that we can get as a result of the Shade Tree Commission. They're like, yeah, we have all that. So it's really good to kind of see that, and we're in pretty good shape leading up to the June submission. The following day, yesterday, attended the Board of Education meeting. Apparently I missed the interesting presentation the week before.
And they gave you food.
See, I hit the double whammy on that one, I guess. But, again, the Board of Education, they have a lot of things going on. Actually, next month, it's going to be the first Tuesday of the month and the third Tuesday of the month, because I think that second week is spring break, the week of spring break. And April 21st? Which one? There's one of them that Bill was with me, so he'll know better than I do. one of them, they're actually recognizing the Teachers of the Year. I think that's April 7th is that one. Yeah, April 7th, they're recognizing the Teachers of the Year. Obviously, with the recognition our school district has gotten recently about being one of the best school districts in the state to teach at, the safest school district in the state and one of the top in the nation. These teachers, among all the other teachers in our school district, the ones that are receiving the honor are well earned. It's actually going to be at the high school on April 7th. So, if you want to definitely show up and show our community support for these teachers that mean a lot to our students. And then right after that, attended the Lake Restoration Committee meeting, discussed a lot of, the results of the presentation from last month regarding the lake management plan, discussed the desire going forward again about doing some of the testing of the outfalls. So we have a baseline understanding about the chemicals that are entering our lake from, a variety of sources, so we can understand, what are the treatments doing, what are actions that we've taken or helping, what actions do we further need to take. It's a relatively low cost. I know that was something that Steve Graber had moved up from, a lower priority to a much higher priority. So I'll be talking to Kevin about our ability to support that. Also discussed the photo contest, the calendars that they've done, going to be doing an art contest again this year, like last year, let the remediation kind of move out of the way, the kind of, when things are open back up, move back to that. And then the discussion regarding the boats on the lake, re-looking at that ordinance, was a discussion regarding the permitting, how do we manage the lake, how do we address some of the issues regarding the quality of life on the lake. Well, people that use the lake, who live on the lake, that just, like to enjoy the lake on whatever days. I didn't attend it, but I do want to give particular kudos to Councilman Bennett for participating in the drug take back on a Sunday, gave up a Sunday morning to do that. That stuff's important because, for a variety of reasons, if you have an older parent and you are, trying to figure out what to do with a lot of their stuff, those kind of resources are important. So, thank you for doing those kind of things. And everybody talked about the emergency preparedness seminar. I'm sure there'll be a few things to talk about from the past year, but that concludes my report, guys.
Okay, so first of all, just so you know, that at the Fine Arts demonstration, they brought in the postcard that won your contest. It was one of the winners of the contest as a demonstration of what they're doing in their program. So that was one of the things they brought up. The other thing I should bring up while we're all talking about it, I get a lot of calls, and that's fine, about when we have storms and emergencies, but we also have online, you can sign up for email and text messages that give you any updated information that we have, and you can do that right on our website. I know a lot of residents maybe signed up for an email, but you can also sign up for a text blast that comes through on your phone when there's an emergency. So a lot of the things you get on the phone, you can also get as a text or an email sent to your computer or your phone, in case your phone or your computer or your cell phone. It's another way to get information if you need it. I had a lot of residents reach out to me about Facebook. We put a lot of information up on Facebook, and I know when people are down and they don't have power and they don't have phones, they have their cell phones always on them and they're checking their Facebook. So that's another option to always get your information from too. We all know that Jersey Central, their one part that they did not do well was communicate with the residents. And that was a big problem, that, they would tell you your power's going to be up in 2 hours or 4 hours, and it just never happened. So, we tried to update as best we can on Facebook and on our phone calls to let you guys know at least what's going on. Can't promise you get power on, but at least you get a real estimate of what's going on in times and dates, and that's important, and you need to know that. The other thing I wanted to mention is on our schedule here is our Easter egg hunt is going to be on Sunday, March 25th, 2018, 2 p.m. Rain date is Saturday, March 31st. It's always a big turnout. It's down at the tennis courts. You're more than welcome to come down and look for Easter eggs as long as you're under the age of 10. Councilman Giacomo, that means you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring up, I think, Liz, you said the April 11th is our budget hearing? is the final adoption for the, I just wanted to make sure. So people, the public can discuss
The
it.
first meeting in April.
April 11th. All right, I just want to, I just want to make a note, the week of the 9th through the 13th, I'm going to be away. That's, I think our councilman might be away too.
No, he's here, right?
No, councilwoman, she might be away too.
No, I think she's here.
Is she here? All right, I wasn't sure, because I know I won't be out of state.
Okay.
It's Easter week or
right.
spring vacation, just so you know.
Okay.
I know the school's out, so just make sure everybody's here when you've been on board boat, so I just wanted to mention that. The other thing I want to mention, I know the mayor talked about it, met with the change of town officers, some of them are still here. If somebody's interested, on Monday, March 26th at 7 p.m., they're going to be up here doing a mock meeting. It's open to anybody. I know Liz usually tapes it, and we play it up on Channel 77 if it's up and running. And when it does come up, it'll be up there, so if somebody wants to come Monday.
Let me just jump in there, because
Yeah.
Channel 77 is up and running. I know we have a resident or two that's concerned that we have it up. It is up and running. We are putting all the missed meetings up there right now.
Oh, good.
So it should be cycling through most of our meetings, and they're done, I guess, Cablevision's done with what they have to do, right? So we're up and running, so the
That's
CTO
good
bid will
news.
probably end up there, too.
Okay, good. That's good news.
Continue.
Like I said,
Oh, and emergency...
emergency awareness will be up there?
Okay.
Oh, awesome, so, some good news, all right, finally, it's back up and running. So that's good, thank you, Mayor, I appreciate that. Also, like I said, if you're here, if you want to come see the young men and women of our future, see them do a little mock council meeting, they always do a great job, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I will definitely be here.
No pressure.
Just, yeah, exactly, no pressure whatsoever. Just wanted to, again, I echo everything, from Borough Hall, from Liz to Kevin, to, all the volunteers, that we have, Shade Tree, everybody, to Tilcon, to MUA, Fire Department, Police Department, OEM, and of course the DPW. Kudos to everybody. It's not a one-man show, it's a everybody show, and everybody showed up, when the chips were down, everybody did their part, and thank you to everybody, wonderful job. Again, not easy, and, kudos to everybody, did an outstanding job, wanted to mention that. I was down there today, speaking to our superintendent, Daniel O'Rourke, and, I was gonna speak to the assistant, superintendent, but, somebody took him out on the road, I couldn't do it, but, I know Randy was there, so he got his there in the process, But anyway, I did speak with him, and some of the things that he wanted me to mention was I know it was out there on Facebook, I think Al put it out there, OEM, I think I shared it, but, next Wednesday, March 21st, is gonna be a borough-wide paper pickup. He just wanted me to reiterate that.
Good.
If this makes the meeting, or whoever's here. Again, March 21st, next Wednesday, a borough-wide, recycling pickup. Also, paper, paper, I'm sorry.
Townwide, yes.
Townwide paper, north and south. The other thing, I know some people got some notifications, with the branches and the tree limbs that fell. The DPW is pretty much primarily picking up only pretty much the right-of-way branches that fell. They're asking if branches fell in your backyard, not to drag them out front too. You're inundated with a lot of right-of-way trees that we have now. So if you could please just bring the front, all right-of-way trees, the branches that fell, the DPW, rest of this week, and I think to the Friday the 23rd will be the last day. They're gonna probably, next week and a half, they'll be done. If something fell in your backyard, if you can wait till spring or it falls out and bring that to the recycling center, would be much appreciated. Pretty much like I said, he just wanted to reiterate, if anything in the front, the right-of-way, by the curb, if you can put that out there, they'll pick that up. We just speak about it today. The last thing I had was the Board of Health attended the meeting there, and just so everybody knows, they passed their ordinance 1801, and what that ordinance reflects is the vehicle impact protection. So if we have, like for instance, the Thatcher McGee's, how a lot of times during the summer they had the side out there, a vehicle impact. Well, a lot of this new, they're going to be pretty much grandfathered in, but all this new construction that we're going to possibly have, they're going to have to look at, somebody wants a sidewalk cafe coming in the future, or future redevelopment. The Board of Health felt it was more appropriate to have the construction official, maybe through the town or something else we designate, take that lead instead of the Board of Health, which is primarily the Board of Health not really concerned about the safety aspect of it. So they approved this ordinance 1801, and that's what it says. It pretty much relates it to the construction official, and then they would be in charge of that. So this way, everybody's aware of that in the future. Right, yeah. I know we talked about it, so everybody was on board. They did talk to the chamber and everything, so it was a go, so it was approved. The other thing was, I think it was Celine mentioned the stigma-free. I did bring it up. They are working on it with the stigma-free as far as the mental health, so it is being worked on. I know you brought it up, and I did bring it up at the meeting, so just to let you know, that it is continuing, and, you know, it's on the ground stages, but they will address it and bring it up, okay? That's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
Just to follow up on that, what he's mentioning on the health department was, the health department passed some new ordinances that they write. We don't write the ordinances there, they write their own. And one of them was protection of outside dining areas. So anybody who has an outside dining area now is grandfathered in. They wouldn't have to follow the new ordinances. What he's basically suggesting is the health department doesn't want to be the one making a decision on what kind of barricade should be put on a new establishment in front of them. They would rather our construction officer be the one that makes that recommendation on what goes there. So this is for something like if a car comes off a highway and runs into a restaurant, you want something to slow down that car before it runs into the tables that are sitting there. So that's what he's talking about with that. And Frank, thank you for mentioning about the DPW. I forgot about that. Yeah, because we missed a paper pickup with the storm, we're going to have a borough-wide paper pickup next Wednesday for all residents, and then it goes back to normal schedule. I think exactly what Councilman Giaconetti said is true. They're trying to remove all the right-of-way trees first, and there's a lot of them. You know, if you could help them and bring it out to the front, they'll pull it away from you. If one of our trees fell on your property, we will, if you could cut it up or break up the branches, put it out the front, we'll take that too. You know, it's a long process to clean up all the debris that we have right now, but they are trying to do the garbage and trying to do everything else. So they will be trying to do everything, try to get it up as best they can. As he mentioned, as it thaws out, you can throw some stuff in your car, bring it to the recycling center. That would save them a lot of time and energy also, because there's a lot of stuff down. Professional reports.
I have no report.
No report. Administrators.
Just a couple of things, Mayor, on my report. Received a report from the Atkinson from the Good Regional Educational Services, who does our IT work. We provide a monthly report for February, all on the undergoing for our IT program. Lending strategies, provide a monthly report for all the grant work we've been doing. And I guess the most important thing is proposed 2018 capital budget. This year is kind of in a number of different phases. I'm going to bring it to the Finance Committee to have further discussion, but right now, the proposed capital budget for debt service, which is when you do an ordinance and actually have debt, is about $807,000, of which $255,000 is through grants, so the debt is somewhat limited. Last year, we were close to $900,000 in actual debt, so we're going to have a pretty decent year in terms of debt-wise. But to do that, I had to go digging around and rummaging a little bit, and I went back to the financial statement, and there was some money in capital surplus. And to explain how capital surplus arises is a whole other concept. When there's about $60,000 out of capital surplus to take care of some minor items. There's also going to be a reappropriation of current capital funds. There's probably around $219,000 of fully funded ordinances that have now the projects are done. And instead of letting them sit there, we're going to cancel them, take that funding, reappropriate it for more debt. In terms of not having debt, it's almost a pay-as-you-go. And I'm also going to take money out of clean communities. We have a clean community reserve for grants we receive for that. Recycling composters, they're starting to have a problem. We pay for that. So it's going to go to the Finance Committee next couple of weeks, and I have to make sure I get all those numbers right with the cancellations. But for the most part, I think we can fund almost everything that's requested this year for capital and really limit our debt to a great degree.
And that's important, because the debt, you know, one of the things it's hard to understand what he's talking about when it turns to debt and things, but one of our bond ratings, which helps us, borrow money, we're a AAA or A+, or whatever they call it. We're one of the higher groups to have. There might be one category above us. And that's because we do a good job of keeping our money down where we have to keep it and spending it. But an example of how we have to spend money is the compactors that we have down at Recycling Center are no longer any good, and they were donated to us 20 years ago by a company that used to take our cardboard. Most of these companies are out of business now, so now we have to go out and purchase some. and these are not cheap items. So that's what he's talking about when it comes to capital budget. There's those kind of expenses that you were talking about in the budget that unfortunately we have to take care of as we move forward. And those are the things that kind of come up on you and you don't know about it. So it's good to have that capital fund there in case we have to do a project. I know that we announced last week that I think Montclair will be going forward in,
No, after
next
this
year.
year, Montclair will be next year.
Next year.
okay, so we do have some paving going on in the next, this year and for next year, which are always good, and we want to try to recycle those paving through so we get through as many streets as we can.
Mayor, I did have a question for the administrator. I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, too. If you can maybe reach down to the county, I guess whoever you know down there, I know you have a couple of guys down there. Reason why I bring it up, the county, in their proposed budget, they're going to build, on Route 23, behind Gary's Wines, and I guess the ski place. They already had the mosquito commission back there. They're supposed to be building a building within the next year or two that's gonna house all their, equipment. Only reason why I'm asking this, where our recycling center is, over by the Pompton Lake Yard. I don't know if that's part of the plan to bring that all into underneath one roof, because I'm down at, I think, 316 and 516 Pennsylvania Ave, by the farmer's market in Patterson's, the one county building. But I don't know if they got some equipment down there. I don't know if they're planning on bringing this equipment
No,
down there.
okay, no, we talked to Tony, Novin, who's county administrator.
That's it, Tony, yeah,
And
you know.
The concept is the county wants to consolidate all of their, operations as much as possible in terms of DPW type services
Right.
out of the garage behind Gary's Wines.
All right, that's the reason why I'm asking, is maybe,
Because they have development potential for that property, they're gonna probably do something on the property that's no.
So we have a meeting scheduled, maybe for even tomorrow.
that's what I'm saying, maybe even put the groundwork in to say, listen, we're possibly, something we could maybe use.
So the county has
That
already
property.
approached us
Okay.
about their property. When we say the county garage where they do all their work there, will be leaving eventually and going to where Councilman Giacometto is talking about on
Yeah.
Route 23. But they have a plan for the property they have there now. It might be veteran housing.
right.
So they're looking to put it into our redevelopment plan and make it work.
right.
So we're in discussion now with them. That's their property. We can't really make them.
Well, I'm just saying, the only reason I want to ask as far as our DPW, maybe plans to try to
Yeah.
utilize that area, they can have the cyclone DPW all in that one spot.
Right.
They have the dome for the salt already, they had the gas there.
Unfortunately, they have a different plan for their property.
Well, I realize that, but I'm just saying, it's something maybe we can even run by them.
Yeah, we're gonna meet with them
and see,
tomorrow.
maybe we can look at it.
I would love it, but
Why don't you mention it soon?
We will, I'll bring it up. I will
All right, thank
definitely
you,
bring it up. Anybody else? Anybody else have any concerns for
No.
the administrator? Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments.
So moved.
Councilman Devine.
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Ann Tassinelli, 5 Lambert Street. I know this is gonna make me sound ungrateful, and I'm not. All of the work that was done throughout the storm with the snow plowing and all that, all great, not a problem throughout the town, except for Wanacue Avenue. So, my problem with the Wanacue Avenue thing, who shovels the sidewalks between the stores and the street?
All right, so the way this works, first of all, we gotta remember, Wanacue Avenue is a county road. We shouldn't be
No,
shoveling-
not the road, okay.
We shouldn't even be doing the road. But
Okay.
I had Tilcon come in because the parking spots were covered with snow and people couldn't park to go to the businesses. So then I reached out to the bid and made them understand, we will take care of the street, even though it's not even our job, but the sidewalks are the responsibility of the store owners. Now, that being said, I understand that there's no place to push that heavy snow when it's sitting on the sidewalks. So what I tried to explain to the bid, and I think we're gonna make it work, in the future, when we have a big storm like this, we'll coordinate with them and let the residents push the snow into the street, and then we'll come in with the bucket loaders and pick up all the snow, and all the snow would be gone. It didn't happen this way, and I understand there was some concern that the snow was too high on the sidewalks.
Well, because, you cleaned the streets to get the passage, and you cleaned up to the curbs, and I don't mean you, I mean whoever. You cleaned up to the curbs to make parking ability. However, then we couldn't get the customers, because I work at a shop in town, we couldn't get the customers from their cars into the street safely. We shoveled, some of us shoveled, or some of the business owners shoveled like but the cars aren't always in that particular, so that was a concern.
And I think it's just coordinating, because, one of the...
Yes, we could have gotten that shoveled into the street,
yeah.
and then the plow came and did his nice little
Right.
cleanup. So, yeah, I'm glad that you're thinking about that
Right.
for the future. And I was wondering, I thought the business owners were responsible to clean, but it looked like someone did them straight down
No.
the street,
No, well,
in
the town
front
didn't.
of the businesses.
We didn't.
Well, you didn't,
No.
and so it looked like, almost like it was a clear run. It didn't
Part of
look
the
like...
problem is you have to have a smaller Bobcat when you have a heavy snow because of the parking meters. So our big Bobcats won't fit between the parking meters there. So you have to have a smaller Bobcat. So I suggested to the bid, they hire a Bobcat, push it into the street, and then we'll pick it all up.
Okay. And the alert system is amazing. I'm afraid not enough of residents know it, because I spoke to a couple of neighbors and said, oh, I said, did you get the alert? Stay in your house. Oh, no, what alert? So, it was excellent to have gotten that alert to tell people not to go outside. We had a gentleman who didn't come to the meeting. He said he was going to because he had another concern. Came to our shade tree meeting. He had gotten hit on his back with a limb that fell. So as he was telling us, he said, I was out there shoveling my sidewalk. I said, you have 24 hours after a storm ends to shovel your sidewalk. And then I said, didn't you get the alert that said stay in your house because he goes, no. I go, well, go on the website, the town website, and sign up, because that was an excellent, we might have realized that, what are we doing out here? But then sometimes, like him, he went out thinking, oh, but I gotta get the sidewalk cleaned so nobody falls. Meanwhile, he gets hit in the head or the back with a big limb that fell off the tree. So, but that is excellent. I get the alerts for everything that's going on, and
And it's a very easy system. They just need to go on our website and sign up. It's a very simple
Right,
thing.
right.
And if they have problems with that, Al, are we still doing help with that? If some seniors have...
I'd like to comment on that one.
Okay.
Okay. And I remember, I think, Aaron, you brought up about you were trying to get recycling in town, in the businesses, to add to our recycling pickup?
Yeah, I mean, that was a long time discussion. I mean, it's...
Yeah, it's not
one of those things-
happening
I mean, I think it's the same challenge as before, is for store owners that are open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever they're doing, and they might be the only person working. One, where do you put it? Where do you move it out to? If you bring it out at a certain point of the day, what do? You potentially lose a customer. So those challenges, I think, have to be an ongoing discussion. We have a new, person in charge of DPW that I think could bring some good ideas.
It's a
going
terrible
forward.
shame, because only being in a hair salon,
There's a lot of lost
the
opportunities.
recycling that we throw away is absolutely... every time I see a gallon of peroxide that was emptied in the garbage, I just think of how much recycling we're losing out on getting our money back.
And I'll tell you the real problem with it, we've discussed it at the bid, and Bill's been at the bid meeting about this. If we put dumpsters for recycling, the problem is the tenants upstairs start filling it, and then there's no room to put recycling in. And so it has to be locked just for the businesses, and that becomes an issue.
Well, how do you get to it? Like,
Right.
you would have to put it behind and...
Well, and it's a logistics issue about where to put it, but it's also about we'd have to have it locked so residents don't use it, because then it becomes just a dump. It's the same situation I'm having with the garbage cans in front of the businesses right now. The businesses are doing what they have to do, but the residents who live above the businesses are using that as their private dump, and it's piling up, and everyone's blaming the businesses for a dirty downtown, when it's really not the businesses, it's the residents above that. So we have to try to work with that a little bit. And maybe you can bring that to the bid tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Elaine Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. I do hope that the OEM meeting is well attended, and maybe that because if there was a crisis, more people will go. We had something scheduled for the Friends of the Library, and we rescheduled it so that it wouldn't conflict with that night. The Friends of the Library is planning a holiday house tour, and we'd like to do it on the day of the stroll, the afternoon before the stroll. Who do I speak to about getting myself invited to a bid meeting?
You just show up. You don't have to be invited. It's tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
It's an open meeting in the Civic Center at 4
They have
o'clock.
one at 4 o'clock tomorrow.
4 o'clock tomorrow, thank you very much, in the building behind.
Yes.
Okay. And Steve,
Oh, no, you're right, I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah, it's no longer, they shouldn't do that without, you're right. It's at their new building across the street, the bid office.
the bid
They have
office.
an office right across the street.
Okay, thank you.
Next to the Cardinal, right?
Yeah.
I can
Thank
find
you, that
that.
was good.
Thank you.
Right, so that's where I guess they'll be having their meetings moving forward. I need to address that with them. They can't just change the meeting like that, because people like you who would go looking for the
Right,
meeting.
I
can't
go in the
wait
wrong
now.
place.
Right.
And speaking of places, one of the things that, for me personally, has been so wonderful about the Friends of the Library project, One Book, One Town, that I spoke to you about at the first January meeting, has been speaking to lots of different groups. Every group I speak to, there are people who have suggestions, and it's wonderful. I spoke to a group of Girl Scout leaders last night, and they came up with more ideas, so I'm hoping that we can use some of the scouts and get them involved in this project. And they met at a beautiful building in Riverdale. I realize Pompton is, we're tight for space, and we have problems with the spaces that we do have, but it would be so nice at some point in the future that we could find a spot where the seniors could meet, the bid meeting could meet, scout groups, other community groups, because we really just don't have a location like that. I was envious when I went there.
So just to follow up on that, one of the projects that redevelopment is going to happen will involve a new civic center.
Excellent.
So that would happen.
That's great to hear. And the last thing is, I was the one who emailed you about
Oh, was
pictures
you?
for the One Town, One Book, One Town. I have the books and the props with me, but if you have an executive session after this,
We do
I can
not.
bring them back and do it for another meeting. I just wanted to get a group of 2 or 3 of you with the
We will
with the
definitely
books and
do it.
that.
We can do it today.
Okay,
We're
thank
almost done, so we can do it today.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Good evening.
Kelly Costello, 444 Midland Avenue. Just for information, Councilman, the county did okay already for the vet to build there.
Yeah.
The vet housing. They already, that's what they want. So I don't know if you're going to be able to change their mind, but actually I called and said, why don't you build us a senior center there?
They actually spoke with us about that when we
Yeah.
had the county meeting here.
Okay, yeah, because I asked for that, and they said no, because they can't, with the funds they have, they can't get a senior center, they have to use it for beds
Oh,
or
okay.
that kind.
Yeah,
I'm glad you told, yeah, I didn't know that. They were
So
putting that
what's
there.
happening, I didn't really let it out yet because it's not public, but since we
Yes.
talked about it.
Well, it's at their meeting, so-
They have a
It's public.
fund coming from the housing authority.
Right.
To pay for this, and it's not really county funds, it's housing authority funds.
Right.
But they're gonna use county property to do this, so it's a combined effort between housing authority and the county to make it happen. They wanted our blessing on it, even though we have no say on it, but I think it's a good use of the property.
Yeah.
We're gonna get some veteran housing and maybe some doctor's offices on the bottom, so it's a good use, I think.
Yeah, but it's public, because they have it at their meeting, so.
Yeah, no.
So it's known to everybody.
That's good, but like Helen said before, we got really no property.
Right.
Half the properties are flood zone, the other half.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We really have nowhere, I'm just trying to
No
think
way
out
to
the
go,
box.
so you think, yeah, you
Yeah, exactly,
think of
yeah.
things, but
Exactly, yeah.
that's.
But I appreciate it, though,
also-
thank you. I
And
didn't
they're
know
all
about
going
that.
over there, like Kevin said, they're all going on 23.
Exactly.
So, the other thing with the snow, I remember way back, we used to call the county, and the county used to pick up all the snow on Montague Avenue. Why aren't they doing it that?
County, this is my own personal opinion, the county had some issues with snow removal this year, this last snowstorm. Our county roads were in pretty bad shape,
Yeah,
even 2 to 3
they're
days
bad.
later. And that's the county's responsibility, and we saw that the county wasn't really gonna come back and do what they needed to do, so that's why we went out and did Wanacue Avenue. Normally, the county does a pretty good job on what they do.
Right.
This time they did not. Hamburg Turnpike was a mess, Ramapo was a mess,
Yeah, they were a mess
Colfax
all
was a
over.
mess. So they just missed the ball on this one, I don't know why.
I would tell you that Philcon and their predecessor, Gallo, prior to that, it's always.
Yeah, it's always
done
help us, yes.
And picked it up and required it to land.
Because it was hard for you to drive, and your passenger, person on your passenger can't get out. So you don't know where to, you gotta go down to where there's an opening, let them out, and then you can't go back and park, you gotta look around for another spot. So it was very
What
difficult.
happened was, I finally reached out to Tilcon and got them to come, and they could only come at a certain time, and it wasn't enough time for the bid to get their thing done. And, the bid was trying to do the right thing and saying, you told us not to push the snow into the street, so we didn't, so where do you want us to put the snow?
Yeah.
So it's just a miscommunication, they'll work on it, I think it'll get better.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Anyone else from the public?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Al Evangelist, OEM Coordinator. First of all, thank you for the thank yous, I appreciate it, but as you all know, it's all about our local emergency planning committee, all right? Everybody came to the rescue, everybody. Everybody that sits on that planning committee was out there, they were all doing what they had to do. And what our residents have to understand, and you just hit on it, this was not our average snowstorm. As a matter of fact, this was not a snowstorm. This was a nor'easter. And they call it that for a reason, because the wind is the issue. Now, I spoke to gentlemen from the county, both the guys on the road and supervisors, and they had the same problems we had. They had a tremendous amount of breakdowns. That's why they got caught the way they did. This snow, as you know, was very heavy with water, because it's a March snow. It's not your typical snow that's easy to push, easy to plow, easy to snow blow. We had the first accident, the first night of the storm, with a snow blower, as always is typical. So it was a very difficult snow to move. Underneath that layer of snow, because it was heavy with water, we had ice forming, which is why we all got stuck at some point throughout the storm. So the county's always been on top of their game. It was like that throughout the entire county, not just Pompton Lakes. And it was a lot of issues with breakdowns and so forth. Our town, experienced the same thing. But the trees are impacted by the wind. Okay, as we know, we had wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. It rocks a tree, and that's all that tree needs to crack, as wind will tell you. An older tree cracks, next thing you know, the next wind gust we get, the tree's down on the road. So it's not that anybody's not doing their job, it's a matter of the weight of the snow on the trees, compacted by the wind. The wind is just impossible to deal with. There's nothing you can do about that. To get back to what I was going to come up here about, and both you and Councilman Jagan have alluded to it, we're still having, and some of the people in the audience brought it up, we're still having a problem with our residents understanding the website. Councilman DeLine, if you could bring that homepage up. Yeah, that's bring the homepage up on there.
Sure.
All right, they are still confusing the notify me icon with the emergency notifications. And the reason I know that is because yesterday we had a flurry of activity on Facebook because someone posted, and I don't know who did this, but somebody posted the leaf and branch cleanup, and it went out only to certain people, so it started all of this back and forth on Facebook. I got the calls for the emergencies, but I didn't get the calls about the branch cleanup. Well, because the branch cleanup went out under the notify me, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, as technology advances, we can do so many different things with it, but almost sometimes it's counterproductive because we can do too many things with it. And this is an example where, right on the front, when they first came out, and we know we had this issue with the water main break, there it is. Okay, notify me, and Councilman DeLine was very kind enough to put non-emergencies up there. Now, if people had registered under that icon originally, they would get this text that said branch cleanup. Right. But they wouldn't get the emergency messages, which is in the left-hand column, that says emergency notifications. Sign up for emergency.
You gotta do both.
You gotta do both.
You've got to do both, because the non-emergency icon is simply to notify people about a meeting, borough council meetings, a flood board meeting, whatever the occasion may be. The one on the left, which really is kind of hidden, it'd be nice if maybe we could almost put the two of them next to each other.
You got it right in front of you.
Yeah, right here.
That one right there. Maybe if we put them next to each other, people won't understand, because they're both capable of text and email. I don't know if they notify me. I don't think it has a voice component.
It does not.
But the emergency does.
Yeah.
The emergency one
Emergency
gives us the option of the voice
Okay.
and the text and the email. I believe the notify me, which I did not sign up for, so I wouldn't know. I think that's just text and email.
Text and email.
But we're having an issue with
Just
the
those
text,
two.
by the way.
Yeah, I can.
Right, and that can be straightened out. But the public has to understand that if they signed up in one and not the other, they're gonna get,
All right, so that's good information. So maybe we can
So-
put a note somewhere on the page that you have to sign up for both somewhere?
Yeah, we can do something like that.
Yeah.
and we'll reinforce that at next week's meeting.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question about the visibility of the sign up for emergency notifications, as we were building this website, you know, the committee and myself as, you know, the liaison to the committee, we kind of discussed what are the things that we really want to highlight on the website. And actually, the icons that are on the left-hand side are what's known as, they're sticky icons. So no matter where you go in the website, you're always going to see them because we really wanted to highlight them. Versus the 5 icons, including the Notify Me icon, which if you navigate off the page, you won't see that necessarily. So that's where that kind of came into play, but that's good feedback. We might have to re-explore how the website is set up for those purposes. You know, whether it's moving one to the vertical column or move.
Or at least
the
a
other.
little explanation
Yeah.
about what non-emergencies is, meeting notifications,
Right, exactly.
you know, general knowledge, general information.
Sure.
So let me, so I can get it to the public too.
But that's where the confusion's coming.
You know, I'm very familiar hearing your voice on the phone. But there was one call that came in that was computerized.
That was Robo, and they hate it.
That's a separate issue.
told that unless they hear my voice, they don't believe it.
Okay, but
there
was that
is a
set up
Robo.
through the, you did that through the
It's
system?
called text to speech.
Okay.
And, we can send that out, and it's a robotic call, but people don't like it.
Okay.
Like the real thing.
They like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't that give you a list of notifications?
Which one, the Notify Me one?
Sign up for?
That one?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, you gotta click off, right.
Yeah, so this one again is really is designed to, right, pick and choose certain things. The Alert Center is actually what's up here. So if something that doesn't necessarily rise to the level of emergencies, but you want to, one, send it out, and two, put it on the front page. And I did give Sharon Sonny, access to that. So
When you brought that page up, is there something we could put, like right next to Alert Center, could we put, these are non-emergencies only, for emergencies, sign up using the,
yeah, we can edit
At
this
least the
page to
redirect.
add some explanation.
Yeah. That might
That's a
help
good
us out.
idea. But most of this is, you know, you have bid postings, government jobs,
Right.
news flashes, which are really sort of like articles, any of the
software.
calendar information, changes to the calendar,
So let me ask you this.
agendas.
Question about the
Yeah.
branches, right now, that just
Oh,
came
yeah,
up.
yeah, true.
That should be in this section or the emergency section?
You know, that's a communication thing, I think, between OEM and the borough, because I don't think, you know, anytime that we want to add something like that, I don't necessarily know we want to make it you know, a reverse notification. Maybe you do, I don't
My
know.
suggestion is going to be to DPW, that when it's storm-related like this,
Yeah.
we do make it part of the
I think that's,
call.
yeah, that's
Because
fine.
it's actually the recovery process of OEM.
Yeah, I agree
We're
with
in the recovery phase. If it was just a routine, we're gonna pick up branches next Tuesday, then put it under
Yeah,
that.
because in the past, you know, when we went through the boil water advisory, when we went through,
Right.
the
Well, that's
first
emergency.
snowstorm where we were notifying residents they had to move their vehicles off the public streets, those emergency notifications went out first, and then I actually went in and I did the alert center based on those messages, because they were sort of long-term kind of things as well.
But I agree with Al then, so for something that's storm-related,
Right.
we should probably get it in so it's all in one section.
Right.
And then they can always go back and check this section separately if they need to look for other information.
Yeah, same.
But that way, you're right, everybody gets the same message.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because that's why I ended up putting it on Facebook too, because I was getting calls saying, somebody's saying this, so I want to have it in one section so we all can have it in
And
one.
just so you know, any message I put out on the reverse notification system, I put that identical message on my Facebook page,
Okay.
OEM Facebook.
Oh, the OEM?
I got it.
Oh, good, all right.
And then everybody should share it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks,
Good
Bill.
good point. That's something we can talk about at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Anyone else from the public like to address? And look, we got to use our new monitors, how exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to compliment the technology committee, because this is great. This is excellent.
We're gonna watch movies next, the next councilman wants to
Oh, there we go.
We're waiting for the adaptation from the book.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Ave, is related to the storm also. I talked to Tom Yeoman from Downs, and he said this storm was as bad as the last hurricane we had. I mean, that just shows the problems that came up. Mr. Evangelista had called me one time that he had a situation on Lincoln Ave near the Lincoln School. There was a tree from that bank across from where they pick up, and branches were laying on the lower wires. It wasn't power wire, it was the lower wires. And I told him, I said, we can't get Downs to come in and do anything. And I suggested he use the bucket truck from the fire department.
No, they didn't.
And actually, they used it, and it worked out well. They had a little trouble retracting it after they're done. But all through the years that I've been on Shade Tree, working with DPW, what we call widow makers are branches that broke off and are high up in a tree. And I know that I've been preaching for a bucket truck for our town, but this storm really shows the need for one. That bucket truck that the fire department has cannot reach as high to reach these so-called widow makers that are all over town right now also. So we're going to try to address them as best we can. But in the budget coming up, and whatever you guys can do for us in the future, a bucket truck that will go higher than what we presently have is in order, really.
If I may say something to that, as you know, Mr. Hinton, I'm an IBW member, electrician. I would recommend you do not touch the widow makers. Leave them right where they are and let the utility deal with them, because the distribution voltage on that is 4,000 volts.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but
Sometimes
I'm
it's 13,000.
referencing widow makers that aren't near power.
Oh, okay.
You know, like in the
Okay.
parks, any tree that loses a huge limb high up in the tree.
Okay.
Let's say the DPW can reach.
I thought you
or-
meant trees that limbs that fall high on the utility.
Oh, no. Well, that's definitely Downs Tree Service, and you have to bring them in for that.
That's the utility.
And I will tell you,
Yeah.
and Al can help.
Or the utility, but Downs is licensed to do that.
We had a line down in the playground in Lincoln School that was coned off, and I was on the phone with the representative who told me this was reported as a non-electrical line, and I said, look, this is a school, could you please double-check that? And as he was going to double-check that, Jersey Central pulled into the parking lot, and it turned out it was an electrical line. So this gentleman who was giving me the information could have made a horrible mistake there. So that's why when it comes down to these electrical lines, we just got to stay away from them completely.
We have another example I just brought to Mr. Evangelista tonight, whereas there was an electrical line down at Lakeside Park from the pole to the gazebo, and it was laying across the equipment. Now, there was caution tape around there, but when I talked to Jackwa was there and to Jersey Central Power and Light, who just pulled up and I was going by, that was a hot wire.
Yeah.
And actually, DPW got in there, was cutting up some of those branches, and Tim Duffy pulled his men out of there. He says, you got to get away from them. So,
We don't want to take any chances.
there was a lapse there somehow, but
And it happened.
luckily, nobody got hurt. Talking to Councilman DeLine, you didn't mention the community garden. Tomorrow is the 15th of March, as in the Ides of March. And usually you plant your peas on the Ides of March for St. Patty's Day. 4 weeks from tomorrow, you usually put in your broccoli and cold weather crops. 8 weeks from tomorrow, you start planting your tomatoes and eggplants. So, community garden's got to get going. And,
Yeah, well, I mean, we're working on it. Obviously, I don't know if you'll be planting peas tomorrow with the weather being
If
what
you
it
part the
is.
snow, you can still put the seeds in, not the plants, the seeds.
You know, it's a process. I mean, we have, various things to jump through. You've been part of the committee.
Right,
We still have to get the materials. We have to go through, the process with DEP and those groups, because it's on the Green Acres property. I was in touch with City Green today about things going on. I mean, it's one of those things of, best laid plans. I mean, the hope was to get, and this is what we talked about in January. We don't
Right.
know what can throw things up. So it's a process. We're going to continue to work on it. It's a good project.
Yeah.
sometimes things take longer than what you anticipated for, but, you know, you hope for the best and you plan for the worst.
Right, right. I mean, there was a lot of residents that are interested in it.
Absolutely.
And if we can get it done in time to get those tomatoes in, you know, we've gotta get the tomatoes for August. And the Morris Canal walkway is going in. You didn't mention that. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job.
I think we talked about it
Started
last time, so I didn't want to bring it up again, and obviously it's been delayed a little bit, too.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. Channel 77, thank you again. Even the music is better.
We changed the music.
Yes.
I had to change the music. I
Yes,
really did.
yes, you are, and I think it's an improvement, yes, it is.
I said, I turned the music off when they said that.
Yeah. I was just wondering if I can get a couple explanations on Resolution 1833. What is that all about?
1833? 83 or 33?
1883.
83.
Actually, we're very simple. The resolutions 82, 83, and 84 are all cooperative purchasing organizations. We currently belong right now to the Passaic County Cooperative Purchasing Organization in Morris County. When Dan came on board, he used some organizations he used in his other towns and his work. So these are free to the town, allows us to buy things on a cooperative pricing basis, allows us to deal with it on a non-bid basis, so they're free, and they're things he feels we have an opportunity to get for us, and different type of equipment and things like that, so they have to do it.
Okay. And on ordinance 1809, about the cat bank,
Yep.
can we have a reason for, or a need for, or
Every
an
year we do.
explanation of?
Every year, this allows us to go, the cap is 2%, this allows us to go 3.5% of cap. At this point in time, our budget is $700,000 below the 2% cap. What this allows us to do, it allows us to build a mathematical cushion, so this way you have cap backing ability. So there comes a point in time when things get tight, you have that cap bank to help you cushion that 2% if it gets difficult. So we do this every year, almost every town does it every year. It's a financial tool which the auditors recommend, and it doesn't really make a difference because we're still way below the required cap.
Okay. Well, anything that can get me a bucket truck.
It's in that cap depth. Yes.
I just sent you an email. Can you access that and put the video up on that screen?
I might have to forward it to Councilman Brennan, so. You sent it to the Pompton Lakes email?
Pompton Lakes email, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? Councilman Day, Councilman Blanco, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Before privilege of the floor, I have something I forgot. I just have to ask that the council send to the planning board 2 properties that they'd like to have an interest in being in the redevelopment zone. One of them is 7-9 Hamburg Turnpike, Pompton Lakes. I have a block and lot number. And the other is the county property that we're talking about, which is the old county garage. Would like to fall into the redevelopment zone. The only way the planning board can introduce that to the redevelopment zone is by us suggesting them to do that. So I'm just going to take a straw poll if we're okay with those 2 properties. Yes, sir? Okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, well, one second. You said 7-9?
That's a property on the south end on Hamburg Turnpike. It's in the redevelopment,
I believe there's 2 houses on that property now?
yeah.
So it's sort of, it sounds like it's sort of non-contiguous to our existing redevelopment zone, right?
Well, it's not in the redevelopment.
It's not in the
No,
redevelopment.
that's what they're asking about. And then the planning board...
So they have to go through a redevelopment study to
Yeah.
designate it
Yeah.
first. Okay.
This is
So
just
that's
to make
what they're
them-
asking.
Right, for the process to happen.
Not to necessarily add it to
They might not go in,
redevelopment.
this is up to the planning
They
board.
have to go through the study.
But the planning board cannot look at it until we give them the authority to look at it.
Got it, okay.
Okay, so that's the 2 properties. We're all good with that? Okay, privilege of the floor. Anybody have privilege of the floor?
Privilege of the floor. L1, I haven't gotten it yet, sorry.
Send it to Councilman Brennan as well.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll buy some time, in a follow-up discussion regarding the storm response, specifically from JCP&L. But before I begin, one group of people I don't think we spent enough time calling out was actually our own residents. From the first storm, I know there was a few Facebook posts from, I forget the name, I have to go back to the Facebook post where somebody actually, opened up their home to offer to shower, get warm, have a meal, and that wasn't uncommon. People, offered support, equipment, even just, hang in there kind of thing. And, that means a lot. So, we have our great first responders doing it, but for the rest of the community, they really support each other. It meant a lot. With regarding communication, obviously, we saw tonight, communication isn't always perfect. We do the best we can from our end. We go through the hiccups. We've gone through the hiccups before. We'll continue to go through them. But, when the information does get out, particularly from Al and Sharon, it's good, it's timely, it's accurate. And as you pointed out, Mayor, I think that was, minus the frustration of, being in a house without any power and wondering, worrying about your kids and everything. I think that was the thing that frustrated me the most about this storm, was you get no information from JCP&L, and then you get an estimate of time, and then it would get pushed back, and then it would get pushed up, and then it would get pushed back again, and then you had no information, and then, eventually you had power. And that's a problem to me, because, it's great that, only lost power for 2 days, and, obviously people that were, went through Sandy and Irene and various other disasters lost power for much longer. So I don't want to overemphasize our situation on Summit and Hemlock and all those things. But people do have to make plans based on the information going out there. And I think that was really where that frustration came, because it was like, are we only going to be out for a couple hours? Do we shelter in place? Do we just plan ahead? Do we think about going up to our in-laws, or, getting in a hotel? And JCP&L was really good about putting out some information, particularly press releases and how they've hit a percentage of the storm. Meanwhile, the other thousands of people that don't have power don't really care that there was 70% at the storm. The first storm in particular, they put out information about free ice and water on a day that was 32 degrees. Now, I understand why somebody would probably want access to ice and water to a degree. However, again, Pompton Lakes was affected. There were other communities up near us were affected. The closest ice and water location was in the town of Boonton, which is 20 minutes away. It's sort of this tone-deaf response to these disasters when you're working with communities on a local basis that I really found unacceptable. And again, I know communication isn't a perfect situation. We're going to be recovering from the storm, and every time that there's a storm, there's an opportunity to do a little bit better. Make sure our vehicles have tires that are better suited for snowstorms, so our DPW trucks don't get stuck in the snow. Our OEM coordinator doesn't get stuck in the snow. That we have potentially backup power, enough water, the kind of things that we're going to learn at the seminar. And my hope is, to put a positive note, is that JCP&L, I think, has a lot to learn from their response and their preparation and their communication ahead of this storm. And I hope they do sort of learn those lessons.
All right, so to follow up on that, when I say Jersey Central Power did a good job, the gentleman I was dealing with was honest with me. And when I spoke, we as mayors, we each had a regional person we dealt with, and he was being honest with me about what the time frame was. I did relay the message, though, that what you're saying, that, and this wasn't you're not the only person to say this, that Jersey Central wasn't being truthful to their residents about what was going on. There was another phone call with the president of Jersey Central, the governor, the mayors, and that was the note from all the other towns. Just be honest with us. Tell us what needs to be done so I can make plans. Don't tell me my power's coming on in 4 hours, and 2 days later I still don't have power. So to me, that was the biggest overall complaint I heard about the whole thing. I know, though, as soon as I got information from this gentleman, I put it up on Facebook.
And you did a great job getting that information out.
But I would have hoped Jersey Central would have done that. That would have been the better move. but they didn't for whatever reason, and they understand that that was a problem. And I think, if anything, they're gonna get accused of not doing is just what you talked about, putting up information. They did not. So I think that's the thing that I know a lot of the state senators and local people and politicians in the state are gonna go after them for that. So we'll see where we go with that. Maybe they do learn from that. But I agree with you 100%. Don't tell them that my residents are gonna have power in a day, and then 3 days later, they still don't have power. So that is a problem. So, point well taken. Any other opposed? You get his thing?
I did not, no.
Okay. You're out of luck.
Sorry, Al, maybe next month, next meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. If you want to take some pictures, yes.
The library?
Yes. Everyone's going to be in it.